Hi, and welcome to another episode of SMECO Connects. I'm Tom Dennison. I'm Vice President of Government and Public Affairs here at SMECO, and I'm filling in for our normal host, Sonia Cox, who is our President and CEO. To my left is Natalie Cotton. Natalie's going to co-host today. She is what I refer to as my right-hand lady, but she is on my left side today, and she's always brings a lot of great energy and everything to what we do here at SMECO. She works in our Government and Public Affairs department with me, and I'm very fortunate. And
hello, everybody. Thank you, Tom, for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm really glad you're here, Natalie. Thank you. And today is a really special day. We have Sasha Kenneth from the Three Oaks Center. She has such an important job, and the Three Oaks Center has such an important mission. Sasha, tell us a little bit about yourself.
You got it. Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I lived in Trinidad and Tobago for 17 years. At 17, I graduated and my mother sent me to live with an aunt and uncle that I didn't really like very, very much. My uncle, he was just stern, he was really, really stern. Sweetest man. He's like genuinely the kindest human being you will ever meet. Love him dearly now. But, growing up, I was like, I don't know. But I came here and I started college I moved to Virginia, Manassas, Virginia. Started college, met my husband shortly after, I moved here, and it was kind of just, it meshed. I was 17, he was 20, and in 1 year we did get married. So this year will be 25 years we've been married.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. We have 2 sons, Devin and Jaden, and we have the most adorable little puppy. His name is Leonardo. He's a Havapoo. He's half poodle and half Havanese, and is genuinely, I think he loves me more than anybody else. And I love it genuinely because he doesn't, he's always excited to see me.
Oh my goodness, it's awesome.
I started, we lived in Virginia when my husband and I got married. And then from there we moved to Hawaii and lived in Hawaii for a few years. He was Navy for 13 years. And we both got our degrees. I studied criminology. He also studied criminology. My master's is in aeronautical business management because I had all intentions of leaving Three Oaks and venturing out because the base is close by and all these contracting, positions.
That's true.
However, I genuinely appreciate the job that I have and what I'm doing. My mother was, young when she was married, and she did have a very troubled, relationship, domestic violence, alcoholism.
Wow.
So when she was pregnant with me, she did finally leave, that relationship and raised my sisters and I by herself as, a single parent. But the resilience she instilled in us is grounding 100%. And I feel like the world works in this 360 approach where she didn't have that hand up when she was going through the troubles she experienced. But now I'm here, have been at Three Oaks for 12 years. I started off as a case manager in the veterans program. And I was doing my degree. I finished my degree, and I just kept promoting within our company because I genuinely care for what I'm doing. And I'm invested in what the outcomes could look like for people because, it just takes a little bit of kindness, and if we're kind to young folks, the little people that are coming up that is exposed to the things that they're exposed to, you can instill better human beings and better men, women, people that are kinder to others and not so damaged or traumatized,
Right.
Yeah.
So let's level set. Where is Three Oaks? And just describe, if you were to describe to someone who doesn't know what goes on there, what the mission is.
Gotcha. So Three Oaks Center is a homeless services nonprofit. We've been around for 33 years this year. We are also the lead homeless services agency for Charles Calvert and St. Mary's in homeless funding. So the federal government, we work with the state and the feds, and we are funded the fiduciary component. And then we have subrecipients throughout the Tri-County that we work with, the shelters, DSS, Department of Social Services, any churches that are working with folks, anyone that's in a literally homeless position, we are able to work with them. So we started off as a 6-bed facility in St. Mary's County in Lexington Park. We are directly across from the naval base, the Pax River Naval Base. And although we are the lead for the homeless services in the Tri-County, we're not stationed in Calvert or Charles. We have agencies we work with that do similar things. Being the lead agency for homeless services, we have what is called a local homeless coalition. That is a group of, individuals and agencies across the Tri-County that makes up what we do in the Tri-County for services, funding, applications, the needs, identifying what's happening, and how we approach a trifecta, instead of just like one agency doing everything and not having the partnership.
That's interesting about you being the core agency for all three counties, because I've always thought that Lifestyles and Project Echo and those other organizations in the other counties,
right,
were responsible for their
right,
particular counties. So that's interesting to note that Three Oaks is the
Southern Maryland,
agency.
Local Homeless Coalition. And my previous director, Lanny Lancaster, he really set the stage for where we are today and why we have what we have. Starting off, we had those few men living in on the streets. People were noticing there were people like on the sidewalks. It was winter. So they started like having conversations, the homeless services agencies, the mental health agencies, medical, because it impacts everyone. If you're homeless and you're in and out of the hospital, or, in a community where you're transient and you're not hygienic or properly cared for, it sets a stage, for just a negative view. And it's interesting that being next to that base, so many people have no idea that Three Oaks Center exists and what we do.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's why, it's so great having you here today to share this information with our viewers, and so that people understand the vital service that you are providing. So just following up on some of the stuff you've already talked about, you said that Three Oaks has been there for 33 years, started out as a 6-bed facility.
A very small. So we're on county property. We lease county property. We have a building that is, the local homeless shelter. We started off as just a small program, providing emergency men shelter. And from that, we've grown. We now have a 16-bed emergency men shelter that was recently transitioned on July 1st to permanent supportive housing, which in the guidelines and the practice we applies the housing first model. You have to go through a coordinated entry services system so we can identify, all the background, all the demographics, history, medical, mental, homelessness, education. And once that coordinated entry interaction happens, individuals are placed on what is called a by name list. It's a live, active, fluid list of everyone we're engaging with throughout the Tri-County and what their circumstances are and what their household makeups are, so that we're able to navigate to place them, if they need shelters, in the right location, as well as identify how we can amplify what they need to do, employment, seek mental health, apply for applications for disabilities, so that they have the tools they need, so that once we stabilize and house them, they're not back on the streets and, in a difficult situation.
Wow.
But so we have the 16-bed men's shelter, and we have 4 townhouses that are families with children's shelters. They're all filled at all times, and in some instances, we're doing doubling up, so multiple families in one unit.
You mentioned that men's shelter. Do you serve?
It is a wide variety of programs we have. It's not very typical that one agency has the variety of programs we have. So we have the 16-bed facility, which is permanent supportive housing for chronically homeless individuals that are diagnosed with a disability and living on a fixed income, because they're never going to be able to afford market rent in any capacity unless they're with someone or they have dual income. Actually, none of the folks that receive a fixed income can afford market rent in our community, period. They're in the negative at the start of the month, and that is the continuous cycle because they're not making enough money being on a fixed income, and there's restrictions on how you can work. But we have the men's facility. We have 4 townhouses that are for families and children. We typically, double up in each of the houses depending on the household sizes. We work with our community partners in identifying how we provide wraparound services for these individuals so that once they exit the shelters, they have that tool. They have the tools they need to, stay stable and move progressively forward, giving their children, their family what they need. We also have a single women shelter that is 4 beds. So it ranges. We work with adults only, so 18 and over. We also have permanent supportive housing in the Tri-County. So we work within our Tri-County to house chronically homeless, disabled individuals like we do at the facility, but in the Tri-County. I think we have about 8 programs throughout the Tri-County, and it's a variety of like household sizes and numbers. And some are disabled, some are physically disabled, some have mental health challenges.
You've been at Three Oaks for 12 years. And so if you were to kind of point to a trend over that 12 years as to the folks who you serve, is it mental health issues? Is it alcoholism? Is it abuse?
A variety, yeah.
And so have you seen anything kind of change over those 12 years?
So we've been living here 15 years.
Okay.
And in the 15 years I've lived here, I have personally experienced and seen the complete regression certain areas have experienced because of the density. So if you have services in an area, you're going to have people coming to those services. But if you don't, map things out and spread the folks that are living on those housing vouchers or in subsidies from, whatever tax credits, it just builds on more poverty. So there's no escaping it. And again, having the base and those contracting companies local, it's striking not seeing the local community progress in those opportunities and move forward with jobs and growth and trainings, We also have a veterans program. We are the only agency in the Tri-County that provides services for veterans and their families.
I think it's really helpful to kind of know. I've been in Southern Maryland for about 20 years, give or take, and 25 years. And the homeless population that I've seen is just one of those things that it's kind of like people know that it's there, but it's maybe not sure how to deal with it. And I just have to wonder in your job how much of a challenge it is to kind of bring awareness to the situation and say to people like, look, we have this high-tech, massive naval base in St. Mary's County where we have tens of thousands of jobs, and we live in a region that is relatively well affluent, and here we have this other side.
Right. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't know what the answer is to get the local people community intact, but I think education is where it starts. And if we're not capable of educating families and their young little people, they grow up to kind of have the same mentalities and follow the same trends, because generational poverty is a real thing. And if you're not aware of how you can navigate outside of that, you kind of follow the same pattern. Having the veterans program has been crucial for St. Mary's, Charles, and Calvert, but there's a high density of veterans in St. Mary's specifically that are in displacement situations. But you asked earlier, it's a collection of, lifestyle, environment, what you're exposed to, what you're not exposed to, what you have, what you don't have, how you're cared for within your house, how your parents were cared for, and if they have the capabilities, because we're seeing more and more grandparents and other family members taking care of children. At the agency, we also have rapid rehousing and prevention services for the individuals that we work with. And the definition per HUD for a homeless individual is in the elements. You cannot be living at a friend's house or sleeping on your mother's sofa or, whatnot. You can be if you're in a vehicle, a non-habitable place, the parks, the woods. Yeah. So in 2020, we were tasked with running a homeless encampment when the pandemic hit. So things have changed in some regards based on what is available, how agencies are doing what they're doing, how their policies have changed to accommodate the needs, due to the changes we've all experienced. But I feel like we have less services for the community that we serve. We do not have affordable housing in any capacity whatsoever. And it is critical if we cannot identify how we connect people to what they can afford or cannot afford. People stay in this vicious cycle where they're never able to get ahead unless, again, I think it goes back to education and the wraparound services that is critical in changing what we experience as generational poverty to where there's more fluid transitions onto those opportunities, because it's just dense. I don't know what other word to use. It's heavily dense. And I've been there 12 years and I've seen, young folks, mothers, sons get on wait lists to be on the voucher program because their mom did it, their grandmother did it, their great grandmother did it, and they do the benefits at the Department of Social Services because that's, another tool for services. But it, again, enables, I think, folks not to want to take next steps. So that might be a correlation. It enables people to depend. It's a very dependent situation. And if that is all you're exposed to, how do you grow? How do you get out of that,
I mentioned to Sasha that Three Oaks is one of our corporate charities for this year. And I'm excited because last year we raised at our golf tournament more than $60,000 and we're able to donate $20,000 to each of our three corporate charities. So I'm excited that that's coming up.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about partnerships with Three Oaks, and because we consider ourselves a partner of Three Oaks.
Absolutely,
in that way. So if you would tell us a little bit more about any partnerships that you have. You mentioned the base and the fact that not many organizations or even people are aware of what you do at Three Oaks. So what are certain partnerships that you might have going on right now? And also if someone wants to get involved,
absolutely.
How do we?
Anybody's interested in getting involved, our website is available. I can provide all of that to you. We often have volunteers that come through. We work with interns. Yeah, just reach out. We can have that conversation. We can do a tour of the facility and share what we do and how it impacts. And as far as partnerships, we work with everybody. Like, we have to work with everyone because it's not cut and dry when you're dealing with human beings that are in need and asking for help and saying I need this assistance or else I'm not going to move forward. We work with the hospital, MedStar. We work with the departments of social services throughout the Tri-County. We work with the health departments, mental health offices, medical offices, because the range of folks that we work with, it varies. We work with a very elderly population that is carrying chronic issues because of their exposures to homelessness and the lifestyles, and it eventually catches up,
You sound like you're very busy.
I'm sitting here thinking of where like partnership, like yesterday I responded to the Nonprofit Institute because they did reach out and asked if we would partner in being a part of their advisory committee and how they grow their services in the Tri-County, which is fantastic. I think more places need to do that and need to kind of jump on board when it's concerning education, because if we can connect people that are in situations that they cannot remove themselves from, again, having a trade, having certifications, having, access to education is critical.
Yeah. Right, because I would imagine the biggest challenge that you face, in addition to having the space available to accommodate the need, is to transition that individual out of the facility. And whether that's finding housing or job placement, those have to be the things that you kind of wrestle with, right?
Yeah, we work with the DLLR, Department of Licensing Labor Regulations. We do job search referrals, mental health referrals, childcare referrals, housing referrals. There isn't a lot of housing available through the Housing Authority for support right now, just because, everybody's impacted and every agency's inundated, and people don't transition quickly from those programs because there's no set time you can be on a voucher program or be on our permanent supportive housing program, where the agency pays your full rent and you pay the agency 30% of your income, which is what is utilized to sustain our case managers in providing those services, because the grant doesn't come with case management. But it really truly varies, and having close relationships with core community partners is critical in how a person that is in those situations move forward. For example, we have people in our families and children shelter, and it's more children than adults because that's, why they're seeking assistance because they don't have anything else or family members to tap into. But in our shelters, for example, we would work with the individual and identify what barriers they have, identify what documentations they need, identify what, their historical exposures have been, if there's any disabilities, a full intake and assessment so we know how we take next steps. Once that's done, there are objectives that we identify with the person so we know exactly what they're interested in working towards, because you should have a right to say, I want to live here versus I don't want to live here. But you have to also have the understanding that if your income doesn't support what you're wanting, you have to make some concession. But we provide any referral services. We also do the security deposit and the first month's rent for any of the families that are in our shelters or individuals that are in our shelters. We can do a few months of rental assistance depending on the household situation and the case. But electricity, we work with SMECO often for our consumers, and when we have somebody that's on oxygen and they couldn't pay their rent and this is a threat to have it cut off, we will call and navigate and advocate for those individuals. And it happens so much
Such
more.
an important service.
Yes.
It is such an important service where I know I've taken some of those calls, whether it's from Three Oaks or from another agency. And yeah, I mean, that's the message that I always tell people is that if you're in that situation or a loved one's in that situation, reach out, call us, talk to us.
Right. We have a fantastic relationship with SMECO. Three Oaks does.
Yeah. Do you all have any fundraising opportunities,
Yes.
Sasha, that you have coming up? Or is there any particular program that you're trying to get off the ground right now that you'd like to highlight?
In the 3 years I've been the executive director, I finally got our strategic plan completed. My focus is affordable housing, and we have been able to identify a community partner in conjunction with the Housing Authority on we did apply for $5.5 million in grant funding from Congressman Hoyer's office.
Okay.
We also have a few other grants that we're pursuing within other, application processes that could benefit us. But my goal is affordable housing, and with the community partner we have a solid plan with. They've been vetted. They have the water systems. They have every single aspect of what you would need to properly live somewhere. The Cherry Cove.
Brian Norris.
Yeah,
Cherry
I know
Cove. Those guys are great.
We've worked very closely with him and with the folks that reside there, and we had a discussion on how we could move forward with this and create more affordable housing for the folks that we're providing services to. Because if we don't have the housing stock and we have a housing deficit, but we have funding coming in and folks that need that, but they're in this situation where they're not going to be able to sustain it, it's kind of, a double-edged sword for people to fall back into homelessness or displacement. So with this approach, the YMCA, Tony, is on board. Local community partners would be on board. Education would be a component. Stephanie Roll with MPI. The Nonprofit Institute would be another component. But really, truly identifying if we can get the funding to purchase mobile structures, and the Cherry Cove is a mobile park, but purchasing those mobile structures, we have the Veterans Resource Center at Three Oaks, which is 3 mobile structures combined, and we've had it for 9 years, and it's fantastic. It's feasible to build off of that if we can implement what we're approaching. But buying the mobile houses, setting them up, we would have a long-term lease with the Cherry Cove group. And because of the services we're trying to do and what we're trying to implement, they are willing to do a long-term 15-year lease, longer if necessary, in utilizing the site, and do lot rent at the lowest cost, below market rent, for 3 years, while we work on identifying the services that's needed, what the children need, and really truly work on helping them save, budget, financial literacy, job placement, child placement, whatever is necessary, identifying young people within their homes and settings, how can they, branch out and have other opportunities. With the YMCA being built, that would be another great opportunity for the people we're trying to do wraparound services to. If we're funded to purchase these mobile structures, they would have access to that site where they could get the, other exposures, activity, versus just sitting around. The kids would have more things to do versus being in trouble and running around in the city, in the community, creating havoc.
Yes.
Because they would have opportunities, But if we can do this, this would be essential. The goal for me is, how do we identify bringing in more revenue for Three Oaks as a nonprofit so we can continue doing what we're doing, get to the next tier of services, not so dependent on the federal government and state grants, because you see what's happening right now. And
Sure.
I don't know concretely what is going to be cut and what's not going to be cut in the next few months and the next year with services and with grants. And that is a scary thought to have. We would have to, let people go, employees. We would have to close programs that are available to the community that is depending on those programs. We work very closely with the VA as well, and we've had conversations over the past week where, they're saying basically try to build into the fact that with what is happening in DC, you're going to have an influx of, homeless veterans, homeless men, women that were displaced from those sites. They're going to move, Criminalizing the homeless is just another barrier and how they can move forward and figure out anything out, So now you don't have income and you have a record and you're trying to get housing or get your life stable. So it's just a lot of backlash.
Yes. A lot of things working against the homeless. Wow.
Even in our communities now, there's challenges post-pandemic. There's a lot of people that need assistance, and I don't think we have the capacity as a community to handle the issues that are unfolding, and the cost of living and the cost of food and just everything, the transportation issues that are consistent. If you don't have transportation, how are you expected to get to a job if you can work the midnight shift or whatever it is,
So I'm thinking that with all you have going on.
We do have the fundraising event as well.
Yes, with all you have going on, you need volunteers, I'm sure.
Yes.
So how can someone volunteer with Three Oaks? How can they reach you? What are your needs?
So again, you could go through the website and do an email to us if you're interested in volunteering. But yeah, we have a variety of things where people can volunteer, but administratively, we have a kitchen, a residential kitchen. We have food boxes that we do Tuesdays and Thursdays if you want to come do that. Spend time in the shelter, interacting, with the individuals, because a lot of times they don't really have a whole lot of folks to talk to, just as a service, just as a kindness. With the veterans, a lot of times they love to talk and share their backgrounds and whatnot. So having that, input, I love working with young people. We work with Riken a lot. I worked with Great Mills because it's nice for them to see reality-wise what life actually looks like, because I think our generations are pretty, they're privileged. I have 2 kids and I can tell you they're entitled and privileged. So I can say, this is.
I have 2 teenagers as well.
We
so
know.
yeah, we
know all
understand.
about it.
We can do meals. There's the front desk that services are done for rapid rehousing prevention, which is fluid, that you can volunteer covering the front desk as an administrator. I am personally looking for an assistant because we went on a vacation, came back in July 4th, and I'm still behind on emails. I have like 190 something. It's constant.
Wow.
And when you have cases that are very difficult, because I ran operations for 6 years, I'm constantly in those cases. So it just gets put on the back burner. So I got to go home and do, work for work. But our fundraiser that we're having next month in October 10th at Brenton Bay, it's called the Fall Ball, but it's very casual and relaxed and sports kind of geared and related. So wear your favorite shirt. It could be football or real, soccer. I'm just kidding. Americans call it football.
Oh, gotcha,
The
exactly.
Caribbean, we call it soccer.
Yes,
Yeah, of course.
yeah. Whatever team, baseball, and we play tons of different games. Everything that's raised is allocated to projects we have right now. In Shangri-La, in Lexington Park, we have 10 houses we own. So folks that we work with for the shelters, we utilize some of those houses, but individuals that they don't have credit, they don't have the income, they qualify for programs like the Permanent Supportive Housing Program. those are the houses we use to try to stabilize them while we build on the other things so that they're not, at the shelter or displaced. They're somewhere stable and have the services that they need. They get case management, rapidly. But yeah, our fall ball,
And that's
October 10th. Yes,
coming up
at
October
6 o'clock.
10th.
Yes. So if you want to support, if you want to donate, we are renovating. When we first started, I shared we had to transition the emergency shelter to permanent supportive housing. So one of our shelters that I used in the pandemic days had 4 disabled individuals. So the property very much deteriorated. We're renovating that now so that we can have it up and ready for fall at a minimum, where we would have 6 beds available for emergency men in that community.
Awesome. Well, Sasha, I got to tell you, from just as a resident here of Southern Maryland, and as someone here at SMECO, I can't think of a better organization that SMECO is affiliated with. And I know that we have our large fundraising event that's coming up at the end of September. And I know that the money that we raise will go to such a good use
Absolutely.
with your organization. And it's truly inspiring to listen to your story, listen to your enthusiasm, and listen to your compassion when it comes to helping people in our community. And credit to you for the work you do. Credit to Three Oaks for the service it provides. And I'm very happy that we're able to share your story today. So
Thank you. We have a fantastic board of directors as well that's very heavily involved in what we're doing and trying to approach the affordable housing project. I really, truly think if we can get this to fruition, it would make a significant difference in our community for the local community.
Totally echo what Tom said about your passion.
I know it's overexciting sometimes.
I
It's
can tell it's great. But it's been a pleasure having Sasha with us, Tom. And,
yeah, it's been great. Sasha, thank you for coming in.
You're very welcome.
We'll look forward to maybe having you back.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.